Hello, and welcome to my presentation for GAMA 2002. This is an environment module where we are tasked with recreating an existing environment to fit into a chosen style from a game. The full pipeline is to be followed through research modeling, creating UV maps, texturing, and rendering. To start off with is my research. For this, I decided to look at two separate styles of buildings, both modern, new and modern, as well as looking at a building that is somewhat old and antique. I looked at the Hive, which is shown on the top left, as well as St. Swithin's Church. While I didn't know what game I wanted to explore yet, I thought that I'd look at two separate styles of architecture and try to fit that within a game style. After creating some mind maps and some mood boards and exploring my options a bit more, I decided to recreate my accommodation, which is shown in the bottom two images, as it still has a grand feel to it, like the previous two buildings, yet it still has an antique feel shown from like the wear and tear on some of the bricks and like the foliage and grass on the outside. I felt that I could apply some storytelling to this as well. And then for my game inspiration, I decided to look at The Last of Us. While there were a couple other inspirations too, um, I decided that The Last of Us is, for me, the perfect example, as it's a post-apocalyptic survival horror game where the environments as shown in the mood board are very realistic, but they've been deteriorated due to the story in game. And I think that this has a really unique opportunity whereby using this game as my inspiration, I can apply storytelling features to my environment through different things such as having the greenery be overgrown, maybe having cracks in the building, having some wear and tear on the bricks or on stones or whatever. And then moving on is the getting more into the pipeline with the Maya workflow and the blockout. So with this, I created my blockout in Maya to get the proportions and the scale. And then from here, I started to refine my model and I started to include different assets. So while these images aren't too clear, you can see more so in the bottom image, like I've got the main building as well as the front wall. I've got the chimneys, I've got the door and the windows as well. Um, and I feel that these are elements as well that have helped with the storytelling. Every asset that I included in my scene is something that I wanted to enhance the storytelling. I felt that while I'm not creating my environment for a game, I wanted to approach it as if I was creating it for a game. And I think that, especially in the modeling side of things and the research, that has really helped by having that thought process. And then from the modeling stage, we get to the UVs. And for me, creating the UVs was a big learning curve, as it helped me to understand the objects in a different way. As opposed to just looking at them in 3D, I had to think about them as being as being these 2D objects and having them unfolded, as that's what a UV map essentially is. And as much as I found the process to be quite difficult, especially with on the left here, on the left image, this is the door frame of the building, and here the UVs, they look pretty good. But when I started, it was really difficult to try to figure out how to actually unwrap it and where I would place cuts and seams in order to get a in order to be able to apply a texture without there being any distortion or stretching. And it for me, it's something where I was thinking about it as a whole object as opposed to breaking it down into parts and segments and chunks, which I think after doing more UVs and gaining practice and more knowledge, I think that it's been a like I said, it's been a big learning curve, and it's something that I'm happy that I stuck with because it's enabled me to problem solve, like what I just said with this particular asset, but it's also given me more knowledge on the pipeline and on a part of the pipeline that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with to begin with. And then going from the UVs, we then get to Unreal Engine and to the texturing side of things. So after creating my UVs, I started to texture my assets in Painter. Now, I had never used Substance Painter before, but again, this was a chance for me to research and to look into this software. So after exporting my UVs into the software and applying different materials to those UVs, I was then able to actually look at my assets to be able to visualize my environment a bit better. And I think that it helped to actually have my reference images so that I could make that direct comparison as well. However, due to poor time management, as you can see on the screen, my scene has been left incomplete. As my planning and time management wasn't something that I focused on heavily, it has left a lack of quality in my work. While I do feel that my assets do show the makings of an environment set within an apocalyptic world, I feel like my inspirations are clear based on my assets. I haven't been able to include all of the textures that I wanted to, which has unfortunately hindered my work and the storytelling that I was going for. However, if I was to do this again and start another project on an environment, I would manage my time better and put more effort into that side of things, where I look at using maybe a weekly planner or a Gantt chart. I would also like to create my own materials and experiment with Substance Painter and even Designer as well, and look at maybe including foliage, because a big thing that I haven't included is foliage, because I think that that really shows the wear and tear of the world, which is something that I didn't get around to. However, while I haven't been able to complete it to the best of my ability, I am happy with what I have learned. I have learned how to UV my different assets and to create UV maps. And I've also learned about texture density and what that actually means and what it means for the engine as well your when you put your assets into engine and you then apply your textures and your materials onto those assets, the texture density does mean a lot. And I think that this project overall has helped me to understand the pipeline, but also become somewhat confident with these different software, such as Maya, such as Unreal Engine, Substance Painter, and I am happy with that.